most people have no idea the role that oil plays in their day-to-day life. If you want to eliminate oil from people's lives, welcome to the Stone Age.
It's very easy to say that the richest people are evil.
Don't walk away and have a what if in your head. Give it everything you have. Leave it all on the proverbial field, so to speak. And when you walk away, win or lose, you walk away knowing I have nothing left to give. I've given it everything I got.
Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. #Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, RJ Burr. RJ, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Aaron, how's it going today?
You know, when I wake up in the morning, I think, how can I speak to someone from Kentucky? So I think I can check it off today.
Hey, we all have bucket list items.
I have a few of them. Speaking to someone like you is definitely there. I want to jump right into it and ask you. I'm second generation in my family's business. I know that you are third generation, I think, in your family's business. Mm-hmm. What was it like growing up in a all-American type of an industry, knowing that your father, I guess, was second generation? How did that lead to becoming third generation? How did that shape your hustle? What did you see? How did that kind of shape who you are today?
Well, some people get to grow up watching their dads practice law. Some get to watch their dads practice medicine. I got to watch my dad in oil and gas. And I was 7 years old. It was one of those go to work with your dad days. And he loaded me in the truck and we took off to the middle of Texas. And I don't know if many of your listeners have been to Luling, Texas, but when you pull up, it has a distinct odor in the air. And if you're not familiar with it, you think it stinks. As a 7-year-old kid, yes, it stunk. And we get out and I go, Dad, what is that smell? He goes, baby, that's money. And we proceeded to go to the field. And when I got out of the truck and I looked at it was just an army of pump jacks. You know, the horses that go up and down across the horizon. I was hooked. I knew what I wanted to do. Some people spend their entire lives looking for their purpose. And I knew mine at 7. 18 years old, graduated high school, got in the business, made my first sale 3 months later, and had it flip back. Now, what it's like growing up, really, I didn't know oil was such an enemy my entire life. You know, I didn't know that. It shocks me that the one product I truly believe you could look at oil and say it has moved more people out of poverty than any product utilized by human in the history of man. And for us to demonize a product like that doesn't really make sense to me. Well, as a kid, I wasn't exposed. It hadn't really gotten bad until the last handful of years. But no, it was typical, you know, dinner every night, go play baseball games, and you didn't really think about being in oil other than that's what your dad did. You know, you saw it on TV with J.R. Ewing and all that, and so that's kind of that was my growing up.
By the way, I happen to agree, just so you know where I stand, and this show is not about politics, but I agree with you 100% about oil and oil consumption and all that kind of stuff. I think that, you know, I have comments being in the insurance business about electric vehicles and getting rid of oil and gas and things like that and what it's done. Personally, just, you know, anecdotally, where I live, there was a big push by the city of New York to get people away from home heating oil. And to gas, and then they actually stopped the incentives and reversed them because they realized that there wasn't enough infrastructure to support, you know, that whole move to natural gas. But it's interesting because I didn't think you were going to go there, but the demonizing of the industry happened when you were a kid. Happened, I mean, you were already in the business as this political shift happened, or your father was still in the business. How did that?
I mean, it's been growing. And you're right, you don't want to get political, but I heard a wise man once told me, and it was actually here recently. We were discussing this, and I was like, you know, just everything that they're doing doesn't make sense. It just the math doesn't. I mean, Don't get me wrong. I'm not an enemy of electric vehicles. If you show me an electric vehicle that can do what my Ram does, I get it. I'll get it. I have no problem with it. But I know my truck can yank the stump out of the ground, and I know I can go anywhere. There's certain things I like about my truck. Well, beat that, and the free market will take care of it. However, when you look at it, I said, this really doesn't make sense. And he goes, think of it in this one concept. You can't manage abundance. You can control scarcity. And when you put those lenses on, then you hate to say it, but it starts making sense.
But I actually think that that's a fascinating life lesson about the hustle, which is you can't manage abundance, but you can control scarcity, and you want to put yourself in a position of getting to the abundance. And I think that that's what scares people in chasing the dream. A lot of people would say, I like to say it about the insurance business, but I think it's even more stark in the oil business. Nobody wakes up in the morning if your family is not in it and says, "Hey, you know what I want to do? I want to go to I forgot the name of the town in Texas that you said, Lulie, Texas, and I want to smell that oil." And that's what I want to get. That's what drives me in the morning. Everybody gets what they say. They want to be a fireman. They want to be a doctor. They want to be an NBA player. They want to play football. But these are the industries, especially yours, that have driven the American economy. Forgetting about getting people out of poverty. What about forget about getting them out of poverty. What about keeping an entire nation away from poverty?
Well,
Not moving upward, but just keeping us stable. And I think that there's something to, and I hear in your voice, the pride and the inspiration in your hustle of representing that going forward.
Well, over the last, and I'm not going to get philosophical or anything along those lines, but when you look at education, when you look at what we're teaching our kids, I'm a big movie fan. And one of my favorite movies is Usual Suspects. And one of my favorite quotes from that is the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And when I look at modern environmentalist, I modify that quote a little bit. The greatest trick modern environmentalists ever pulled was convincing the world that oil was bad. And so, yes, there is a pride in my product. I love oil. I love what it does for the human condition. I mean, most people have no idea the role that oil plays in their day-to-day life. You could I truly believe, I would bet everything I own, you could go to any city in America, randomly grab one person, and they would have at least 2 products of oil on them, and most likely not even know it.
What are the most common ones you think people miss?
Plastic. Everything with poly is oil.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you can make 6,000 products from one barrel, from your toothbrush to your toothpaste to the pipes in your house to makeup to medicine. The list goes on and on. Just get on the internet and type in products made from oil, and you'll see the list just boom. And that's what most people don't realize is if you want to eliminate oil from people's lives, welcome to the Stone Age.
Try it for a week and see what happens.
Yeah. And then, and then they said, well, it saves the environment. Well, ask the Germans. Would they rather have their beautiful, pristine forests that have been there for centuries or their natural gas? Because they had to start cutting down their forest here a winter ago for firewood. Well, I would rather buy my gas from Vlad at a cheap price.
So are all of your products domestic?
Yeah, everything we do is here. Everything.
Wow.
Well, and that's really that when I was bringing up education, that's the biggest tragedy is we've lost the pursuit of excellence because excellence doesn't get praised like it used to. We browbeat people that are excellent. We love to see a hero fall. And instead of embracing excellence, and I mean, heck, that's what we're here. I want to see, I don't care if it's underwater basket weaving. If you're the best in the world at it, I want to watch you do it at least once. Just to say, I wonder if I could do that. But you look at all this and the fact that we haven't taught our citizens about what goes into making their life their life. You take it for granted. All of a sudden, you have people coming in and spouting stuff that literally 1 and 1 does not equal 2. And you have people willingly accepting it because they don't know the ramifications. In fact, they don't know the statistics. When you look at, let's just say the CO2 emission drops, when you look at all the drops that have been achieved over the last 10 years, you know where 3/4 of them come from? The oil companies learning how to burn oil cleaner.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think that and I want to pivot a little bit, but I just want to point that out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that part of the greatest innovation in clean oil has come from the oil companies.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to get more efficient or better for the environment as a company, but I assume you have, because part of that is technology and part of that is efficiency, and probably part of that is, wanted to bring the best product in the most efficient and healthy way forward. But I
Well, yeah.
I think that there's there's a lot to the fact that people don't, in a lot of industries, people don't understand or care to understand what goes into our daily lives and the hustle. I say the same thing about financial success. It's very easy to say that the richest people are evil. But
Yeah.
but Jeff Bezos has made a lot of people's lives much easier, and he's made a lot of products more affordable, and he's made
Hmm.
people's ability to get those products more affordable and easier. And yet people vilify the richest people in the world. Yet
Well,
they directly, the people who vilify it the most are, a lot of the time, are the ones who benefit the most directly from it.
well, it's the Mark Zuckerberg's telling you to stop driving your gas car while he's getting on his $400 million yacht. Come
Exactly.
on. I can. Don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. It's just it's something that it's not exciting. I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but when you look at the youth and you look at the social media and you look at it's boom, 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 one thing after the other, who can do at one up what, and it's whatever category, whether it's comedy, whether it's whether, doesn't matter. They're trying to, and they're wanting to be entertained. Well, this stuff is not entertaining. Learning about how the world works is not, it's not fun. I'm not gonna tell you I jumped into oil 101 head first and was, oh my God, this is the best book I've ever read. No, you grow to love it over the years as you mature and you understand its value and its role. But as a kid, you don't really understand that because you're not taught. And I'm not. It's above my pay grade how we fix all that. All I know is that if I keep my paddle in the water, I can keep my ship going. And so I just keep my paddle in the water and keep on paddling.
So have you ever doubted that? Have you ever questioned your decision to go into this business because of the heat that they've taken?
No, no, not at all. I mean, I was at CPAC here last year and had this reporter from NPR come up to me, and he said, "You're the oil guy, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, who do you want to win in 24?" I said, "Well, it depends on what me you ask." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if you ask the everyday me, the guy that has to pay the same prices as you at the pump, I want Trump to win." I said, "And the reason I do is a little different than everybody else, is the sense that he understands one thing that most politicians just don't grasp. And that's that oil prices have to be at a certain price where it makes it worth the oil companies going out and risking the money to get it. However, it can't be too high that it kills the consumer." He understood that, and we found a sweet spot between $60 and $80 a barrel. Everybody can handle that. I said, so if you ask the everyday me, I want him to win. I said, but if you ask the oil guy in me, I want Biden to win. He goes, really? Why? I said, keep ESG scoring it. Keep running people out of the business. Keep scaring everybody away from oil. And you know what I'm going to do? While they're doing that, I'm going to keep buying it. I'm going to keep buying reserve after reserve after reserve, because eventually the ether's going to bust. And people are going to come out from under it and realize, oh my God, we can't get away from oil. I mean, just look at the numbers. We're running about 10 to 15 million barrels a day short supply demand right now, what we consume versus what we produce. Then you look at the fact we're down roughly 60% on upstream investment worldwide since 2013. That's investing to find more oil to replace what we produce. Well, then you add into the fact 83% of the world's population is just now beginning to use oil. What do you think they're going to say? Do you think they're going to say, oh, Greta's right, we're ruining the world, we need to go back to the Stone Age? Or are they going to tell Greta to shove it and go push the gas pedal down? We know what they're going to do. So oil's not going anywhere. And when all of a sudden everybody else realizes that, well, the next step in that is there's something to replace it with. Well, that's where you go to solar, wind, and all that. They're just not efficient enough. It's going to take some little wizard of smart. It's going to take some little brainiac that we don't know. He's going to think outside of the box. He or she, I'm not that. They're going to think outside of the box, and they're going to come up with fusion, but something. I don't know. but they're going to come. But it just hadn't happened yet. And the reason I don't think it's happened is knowing human nature. If somebody had figured it out, they'd be on top of the mountain telling the world about it. And so
there also has to be buy-in, right? I mean, people have to. It's very easy to move the rock up the hill. It takes a lot more power than I think people are willing to admit. As you said, our lives are revolved around it. And I think that actually the more people go away from it, or the more people try to go away from it, it's actually to our detriment because, as you said, we're losing the supply is really underperforming the demand. And that gets to, but you want to know the best way to, in my opinion, to separate the haves from the have-nots? Inflation, right? I mean, when gas prices go up, the people who don't have to, it hurts. Believe me, we have 2 cars in New York City. It hurts sometimes when you go to the pump.
Yeah.
But what about the person that has to question 2 or 3 times whether they're going to be able to get to work today because they can't fill the tank because the prices are up? No, it impacts me and you a lot less than it does that person when the prices go up by $10 a gallon or whatever it is, $5 a gallon.
And when people don't realize, when you go to the grocery store and you look at the cost of a loaf of bread, well, do you know where a lot of that cost rise came from? And the transportation cost to get it there. And so it affects everything we do. And really, when all this started, and this started really back in COVID in 2020, when the whole thing started rolling, when the oil market crashed. And excuse me. And when you look at it, we saw the market conditions and we started making acquisitions. We've secured what we think is about 100 million barrels of oil in the next 10, 15 years. Well, I was semi-torn. I was torn about it. You know, I started, so many people are hurting. And here we are, we're making a killing. We're actually, our partners are doing well. Well, is it right for us to do that? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, we're all in the oil business. Whether you want to be or not, you're in the oil business because you pay for it every day. Well, once I made that snap and I said, whoa, hang on. If we're all in the oil business and we can provide a number of people a little ray of sunshine, a way to get that revenue coming this way versus continually going out, oh man, sign me up 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. And that's when we pushed the gas pedal down because we knew we were on to something. And no, you're not getting away from it. And then when you think about it, most people have no idea what the American oil industry truly is. Most people think of JR. Most people think of Exxons. Most people think of your large oil companies. When the fact of the matter is, 83% of the oil, 90% of the natural gas, and more than 90% of the wells drilled domestically are drilled by roughly 9,000 independent companies that average 12 employees or less. That's the American oil industry.
By the way, that's every American industry.
Yeah, and so most people don't understand that. When all this stuff happened, those were the companies that were hurt. It's not your majors. Yeah, the majors took a hit, but they're really not truly American companies. Most of their production's overseas. Now, I don't begrudge them that. They do what they have to do. They have stockholders to account for. And so they're chasing the big oil. However, when you look at what we do domestically, the independents are the ones that lead the charge. Now, there are some large independents out there, but we fit right in that. That's who we're competing with. We're competing with roughly 9,000 companies that average 12 employees or less. And good Lord's kind of reached down on us. I'd love to say we were rocket scientists and we figured it out. We were just, we just happened to be in the right place at the right time and made the right decisions.
But a lot of people, I appreciate your humility, but I believe that God plays a large role in everything that we do. So I'm not downplaying that. But I think that you said something profound for our listeners about your hustle and how you keep hustling, and that is that you keep the oar in the ground and you keep rowing. And a lot of people, one of my closest friends has a picture of a buffalo hanging in his office, similar to the picture behind your camera. And the reason he says is because the story of the buffalo is when a storm comes, the buffalo runs into the storm. Every other animal runs scared away from the storm, but the buffalo runs into the storm. And I think that the people who keep their don't dream of $1 trillion, but say, this is my opportunity. And I can either seize the opportunity and keep hustling through it and make something out of it. 2020 the world is coming after me, my industry. The world is upside down. And in addition to that, they're coming after me in my industry if I'm in your chair, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people probably ran scared from that. And I think probably one of the greatest levels or measures of your success is that you ran into the fire. And now you're
What
able to look back and say it was the greatest decision you ever made financially.
what Patton say? When you're going through hell, keep going. You know
But
that, and so you
and that's
kind of
what this is about. That's what this
well,
podcast is about. It's about inspiring everybody to say you can keep going. Everybody goes through that hell. Everybody has those challenges, and everybody has the opportunity and the ability to keep hustling. And only you determine your hustle. But yet you have the opportunity to keep going. Nobody's going to stop you except for you. You might slow down.
look,
You might be forced to slow down, but nobody's going to stop you except for you.
I, I have 4 kids from 23 years old down to 14. And each one of them had their own interest. Each one of them had their own sport. I mean, it's kind of crazy. They each played different stuff. And the one thing that I've told them, it was really a two-part strategy. One, control what you can control. Everything else that's out of your control, don't worry about it. You can control what you can control. You can control how hard you go. You can control how hard you study. You can control how hard. You can control that. And then the second side of that, never leave the two worst words in the English language. What if? Don't walk away and have a what if in your head. Give it everything you have. Leave it all on the proverbial field, so to speak. And when you walk away, win or lose, you walk away knowing I have nothing left to give. I've given it everything I got. And I was talking with my dad, and he's getting up there. He's about 77 years old now. We were just shooting, chewing the fat. And he was kind of reminiscing of his life. And he goes, babe, he said, I wasn't born the smartest guy on the planet. He said, I wasn't born the best looking. I wasn't born the fastest. He said, but when I get to the pearly gates and I look down at the guy, I say, God, I gave it everything I had with everything you gave me. He said, that's all I can do. And so when you look at it, when at the end of the day, and you have to, I understand living in the moment. I truly do. You have to appreciate the moment and live in the moment. However, to appreciate and live that moment, I think you have to put yourself at the end of the race and say, what do I want to think when I get to that point about the path I walk? And
And that it,
only you, yeah, only you can answer that question. Only you can, and you know what other people think about you? It's what you let them think about you. It's by how you act. It's by how you conduct yourself. It's by how hard you work. Vince Lombardi is one of my favorite. I love quotes from Vince Lombardi. The difference between winners and losers. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to go out there and get the W. But the difference between winners and losers, winners are willing to do what losers aren't. And so that's what you have to, that's the mindset you have to put your of. I used to have an old sales trainer that I worked with that old Rick used to look at guys and say, look, I don't care how smart you are. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what car you drive in. I need somebody with an uncontrollable desire to succeed. That's the number one foundation, and other than that, we can teach everything else. Now, there's certain things you can't teach. Some guys, I guarantee I can probably not teach my dog at all to go fetch. The dog is going to lay down and stay there, and he would probably open the door for a robber if the robber let him inside. And so, there are some things you can't teach. However, for the most part, we can teach a lot of. And so, the one thing you can't teach is that desire to reach the top.
and that is keep hustling. And if people stay at it, I wish that people would stay at it more. And I wish
Oh
that more
God.
people would speak to their kids the way you do and say, if you have no what ifs, I can't guarantee financial freedom. I can't guarantee tens of millions or billions of dollars, but I can guarantee that there is no. And one of the reasons why I started this podcast is because I believe that everybody should at least strive to, when they put their head on the pillow at night, they say, I have no what ifs. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I don't know what today will yield, maybe, but I have no what ifs. Are there any? Is there? You mentioned your 4 children. Do any of them love the? Love the, what did you say? The scent of love, that you love the scent of oil, or that's the
The
scent of money
smell,
or something? The
smell of
smell
money.
of money. Are any
Yeah,
of them in the
actually,
business?
well, I wouldn't let them come work straight for me when they got done with school. I wanted them to get out in the real world, get their toes smashed a little bit, and realize what work really was. But yes, now my oldest is in the office. He's 23 years old. Just started here about 2 months ago. Now he's been in oil his whole life, and so it's not something that he's new in the sense of knowing oil, but he's new in the sense of working for dad. And so that's
I tell people all the time, my siblings know more about the insurance business just from being at our dinner table
well, yeah. Well,
than most people in the
big
insurance
companies.
business.
Look at Walton's. I mean, it's typically the second, third generation that take the companies to the next level. Not because they're smarter than the first generation. It's just because they've been in the business their whole life. My first day at work, I knew more than most of the people that were out there just for the sheer fact I'd been around it my whole life. Well, heck, give yourself a 10-year head start on everybody and tell me where you're at when you're 49. And so you learn the intricacies of the business, and that's something you can't teach.
I have to ask, I don't usually ask this on the podcast, but I've never had such a person who's a master of such an integral part of our lives with the undivided attention. So I got to ask, what do you think the future of the American oil industry is over the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, it'll keep doing what it's doing. There's no way we can get away from it. I mean, now, unless this is kind of getting a little political, but I'm not really trying to. But when you look at the decisions that are being made right now, and you try to figure the reasons those decisions are being made, from every angle I've looked at it, it doesn't make sense. Unless you put on, if I was going to try to destroy the country, what would I do? That's the only lenses that it makes sense what they're doing. Trying to wreck the oil industry. I just don't believe they'll be successful with it. I just don't think they can do it, because you're going to see people's lives haven't truly been affected yet. Yes, on the outsides they've been affected. Yes, they see stuff. They know something's not right. However, it hadn't walked into their daily circle. Most people in the country, yeah, they see the price at the pump, but they haven't gone to the grocery store and not had anything on the shelves. And so when you start seeing, because this is all self-inflicted. There's not one thing happening right now that should have happened if we'd have made intelligent decisions. And it's not genius decisions. It's just common sense decisions. And it's scary. I'm not gonna lie to you. It is scary. Now, what is it going to do? I don't see it doing anything to the oil industry. You shut the oil industry down, we go third world overnight.
Do you think that the industry will continue? I assume, do you think the industry will continue to evolve, though?
Yeah,
Do you
we
think there's
have
still
to.
a ways to go?
Yeah, everything does. But it's one of those, it'll be in how to burn it cleaner. It'll be, you look at, let's just look at the environmental side of it. Let's just say that you do believe in all that and you do want to lower CO2. Well, if you would do that, to go the route that the environmentalists are wanting to go, we'd have to pillage the earth like we never have before for raw materials. Just get on the internet, type in lithium mine and hit images and tell me what you see. And so that route doesn't make sense. You mean you want to save the world, but first we got to destroy it? Well, that doesn't work, especially when you have natural gas and nuclear already there. Most homes already have a natural gas line run to it, and so most of the infrastructure, for those that don't, it's a quick fix to run that gas lines to them. So you mean to tell me we could put converters on every car? They'd run on natural gas. You could fill up at your house, don't have to go to the convenience store anymore, or the gas station anymore. Well, that seems like a pretty simple solution. Plus, it burns hotter and cleaner than anything else Well, okay, for whatever reason, let's say we don't want to do natural gas. Let's go nuclear. You mean to tell me we can run the most advanced subs on the planet on nuclear power, yet we can't do it here? No, we've let a 40-year-old movie scare us. And so it's just, when you look at it and you say, well, hang on, we have these solutions. Well, that will be the next way they go. I mean, you want to reduce coal? Well, you fire up natural gas-fired power plants. We have more natural gas than anybody. And so it's just, I don't believe people will choose to live in, because that's what would happen.
I totally agree with you.
What side of it? Because I don't believe in Republican or Democrat. I mean, if you want to go political, I believe probably 70, 80% of the country would fall on just traditional Americans. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. If you need help, ask me. I'll help. If I need help, I'll ask you. I mean, just common sense, you see everything going on the campuses right now. And you see certain groups standing up and well, do you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of a family. I can smack my brother in the head. I can kick my sister. I can headbutt him. We can argue. But by God, if you come in and do it, you're going to have to fight all of us. And
100%.
that's slowly what you see happening. Hang on. We are a good country. We do more for anybody than any country that has ever lived. When you look at the immigration, we occupied Mexico. Everybody seems to forget that we had Mexico. We were in Mexico City for 9 months and we gave the country back. If we were like any other country in the history of man, Mexico would be America. And we gave it back. So we are a good people that have good hearts that want the best for everybody. How dare you come in and say I'm a bad? Are we perfect? No, we've had mistakes. But by God, we had, 500,000 people die to try to fix them? So don't come in here and tell me we're bad. No, I've had enough of that. And because we're not. We're good people. Now, if you mess with us, we'll take you out. Sorry, I'd rather you be afraid of me than my friend. Now, if you want to be civil, if you want to live in the civil world, act civilly. You don't, guess what? We can get dirty too. But we don't want to. We would rather be civil and have everybody happy. There's no reason there should be one hungry person in America. There's no reason there should be one person without a roof over their head. You mean to tell me we're the most affluent country of abundance in the history of man and we can't take it? No, bull. It's choices. It's because we're making, I hate to use the word stupid, but stupid choices. I mean, look at the political class that we send to Washington. They are the most unimpressive people in the country, yet they're making our decisions.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
sorry, I'll get off my
100%.
soapbox, but it's just we're fighting lunacy. We're fighting lunacy.
I so appreciate your perspective, your passion. 3 generations of American business people keeping everything that we have in our lives. I'm looking at my studio desk. I'm looking at everything that you have helped produce and the comforts that you've given me. And all I can say is thank you, and thank you for continuing the legacy and the American dream. And I'm glad that there's still some people in the world that enjoy that, not just the smell of money, but the smell of oil in the morning.
Well, I'll tell you one little short story before we go. I was at that CPAC in that same NPR, continuing the conversation. He goes, okay, I got to ask you about woke kids and raising woke kids. What would you tell them? I wouldn't tell them anything. Keep doing it. He said, oh, why would you say that if you're so passionate about it? And I said, look, all they're doing is making the world easier for my kids when they're grown. Keep doing it. Because the real world is cold, hard, and cruel. It'll leave you on the side of the road, dead and bleeding if you're not ready for it. But in the same breath, it can be the most beautiful experience you've ever had. As long as you have the proper perspective. As long as when you look yourself in the mirror every night before you go to bed, I'm not nothing special. That's what I do every night. Brush my teeth and I look myself in the mirror. And I ask myself, am I happy with who I'm looking at? If I am, you can't lie to yourself. You know if you are or not. If you are, hey, go to bed with nothing on your head. But if you're not, you better figure out why you're not and fix it. Because you'll never be good for anybody else unless you're good for yourself first.
That is the definition of keep hustling. We ask all of our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational, inspirational quote. I assume you have many. You've already shared a couple with us, but any more, any favorites that you can share with us before we go? And I would just like to thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your story and inspiring me and all of our listeners.
Well, I used my favorite one right there with the Vince Lombardi, the difference between winners and losers. Winners will do what losers won't. I don't know if this is necessarily be a motivational quote, but considering it came from Mike Tyson, everybody's got a game plan until they get hit in the mouth, and then you deal with it.
That's it. And then you keep hustling. And you get hit in the mouth, you keep hustling, and you get up again.
Well, that's what actually, you said that little scene in Rocky when he's talking to his son. It's not a matter of how hard you hit; it's a matter of how hard you can get hit and keep on going.
That's it. That's it. That is the definition of keep hustling. RJ, thank you very much. This has been awesome. Another episode of Keep Hustling with our guest, RJ Burr. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.